How you feeling?
Good. Is this farewell?
No.
Am I not going to have somebody to stand next to me next year and make me feel incredibly short?
No.
So somebody said to me, either Dan's really tall or you're really short. I said both.
Yeah, there was a report yesterday on Sporting News, and I didn't know anything about it because I'm doing the pre. Thank God I didn't know anything about the pregame, this during pregame, because it said, "Oh, are you reuniting with Keith Olbermann at SportsCenter?" I go, "What year is this?" Like, no, I'm not. And so all of a sudden it became a story. And then my son, I'm at dinner last night after the Super Bowl, so I've been working for 12 hours, tired, and he goes, "You know about the ESPN thing, Dad?" I go, "What?" He goes, "No, about you going back. Seriously, you don't know?" I go, "Just tell me what are you talking about?" So he tells me that. Next thing I know, I'm texting my agent going, "Can you inform me what the hell's going on there?" And he said, "No, ESPN is going to clarify this, that they made a mistake in how they worded this." Because I was trying to get Sports Jeopardy on there in my broadcasting school, ESPN, to be affiliated with that. So, no, I'm not going back to the 6 o'clock sports.
Well, I'm relieved. I'm relieved.
Yeah, I'm going to stay there and continue to do Football Night in America.
Good. Continue to make me feel incredibly small.
What, Paul?
I just want to make sure semantics. You're not going back to 6 o'clock Sports Center. There's multiple Sports Centers throughout the day, Dan. Just clarify.
I'm not going back to do Sports Center.
What about Sunday NFL Countdown? That was in the article, too. You could you do that and Football Night in America? It's not that far of a drive.
Wait, that was in the...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I didn't read it.
Yeah. Ratings are down for Sunday NFL Countdown. Dan Patrick can pump them up.
No.
There we go.
No, that's 3 hours of work there. What are your sources telling you about this?
I nothing yet. I'm too worried about trying to figure out what's going on with all these Patriots that are supposedly jumping ship or not.
All right, we'll get to that in a moment. By the way, I did meet with John Skipper, and we talked about the other things. Not doing NFL Countdown. I don't want to do that. It's too much work.
But with, they have like 25 people on the show, so you'd only be on like 10 minutes, right?
If I could do the final hour of NFL Countdown, that'd be one thing. All right. So let's start with Malcolm Butler. Do we know anything more about why he was benched last night?
No, we don't. And I don't know that we ever will, because it's not in his interest to come out and say whatever it was. He had to have done something, Dan, that upset Bill Belichick close in time to the start of the game, because he found out not long before kickoff that he wasn't playing, and Eric Rowe, his replacement, found out that he would be playing. That's not ideal for a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Eric, oh, by the way, yeah, you're actually going to be in the starting lineup. So there has to be a story here. Something had to have happened yesterday or Saturday night that prompted Bill Belichick to say, I'm going to send a message to the team, even if it undermines our ability to win the game. And, I know Tom Curran had a strong opinion about it, cost him the game, and maybe it did, because at some point you have to say, what we're doing isn't working. Malcolm, go out there and try to do better than what we can't stop them. So surely Malcolm Butler could have at least done as poorly as what everyone else was doing.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out, because he was available. We had heard that he had the flu, or he was under the weather.
But he played special teams.
Yeah, but not a lot, I don't think, did he? But that I was, we're watching, and Tony Dungy and Rodney Harrison and John Harbaugh, and we're going, where's Butler? And we couldn't get any answers from anybody. Even listening to Chris Collinsworth and Al Michaels, you couldn't get any information there. And even afterwards, felt like the Patriots, even, Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator, is like, blah, blah,
talking in
blah.
circles.
Yeah.
He's learned from the best.
Yes.
Day to day.
All right. We also heard that maybe Josh McDaniels wasn't going to Indianapolis.
There's something weird going on there. And I think he still may go, but being in the Super Bowl city for the whole week, you see a bunch of different people, you talk to a bunch of different people, and you start to pick up some weird vibes. And it was a week ago Tuesday that I started to get a sense that maybe this McDaniels thing isn't as done of a deal as and they'll tell you all the time it's not a done deal until it's really a done deal. So he could back out if he wanted to. I mean, nothing's official yet. And I started to poke around like, well, where does this really stand? And I was told at one point that Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator, has essentially made it clear that he's leaving to coach the Lions. But Josh McDaniels hasn't told the Patriots he's leaving. So, well, what would it take for him to stay? And I think that one theory is he's angling for a commitment that he would replace Bill Belichick, but I don't think the Patriots are going to give him that, because things can change, and nobody knows how long Belichick's going to coach. Robert Kraft told me back in March he wants him to coach into his 80s. So who knows what kind of a commitment they'd be making, 5-year, 7-year, 10-year. So I don't know where this all goes, but there is a weird vibe, and I think there's a combination, Dan, of maybe the Colts not being 100% comfortable with McDaniels because they had to sell Irsay on it, but it's more importantly McDaniels not being 100% comfortable with the Colts and not being comfortable with working for Jim Irsay and not ready to make that leap because he's already had a failed head coaching job. When you go for the second one, you better get it right.
But also, you have to factor in Belichick and how long he wants to do this. Now, I didn't know if there was a scenario where if the Patriots had won last night, that Bill Belichick rides off into the sunset.
But what's he going to do? That's the thing. It's his lifestyle. He's built this infrastructure where everything is set. It's just his routine. What would Bill Belichick do if he wasn't coaching football?
He'd be like a defensive line coach at Navy or something.
Lacrosse. He'd probably coach lacrosse somewhere.
His daughter coaches lacrosse.
I can't imagine him finding the fulfillment. And it's almost like with Nick Saban. You climb to the top of the mountain, and then you go back to the bottom, and you climb the same mountain again, and you go back to the bottom. But once you climb it that many times that you set the bar so far out there that no one's ever going to come close to it, I think that's what drives these guys.
The Gronk retirement talk. I know it's in the moment, but he was healthy this year. He was using Tom Brady's health guru and stopped drinking during the season, or at least cut down on the
That's why he's retiring.
So he can drink. Yeah. What do you make of those comments?
Well, that was another one where there was a weird vibe throughout the week. And I think it's a combination of the hit that he took from Barry Church 15 days ago in the AFC Championship game. I don't think he's ever been hit like that before in the head. I think he struggled to pass the concussion protocol to get clearance to play. I believe that people close to him, family members, are pushing him, at least one, maybe more, pushing him to step aside. He's never spent a dollar of his football money. He lives off of his marketing money. And the question becomes, $8 million next year to stay with the Patriots. How much money can he make just being Gronk? I mean, there's a niche out there. You don't want to stray from it very far. I've seen him act. You don't want to do that. I've seen him do the comedy thing. Fritzy, you got him beat by about 1,000 times, right? But there's a Gronk being Gronk, where just be Gronk. Like, go to Barstool and just be Gronk. Do the Gronk cruise. Do one a month. Just be Gronk and be that guy and make $5 million a year and not get hit in the head and not have to have 5 arm surgeries and a knee surgery and ankle surgery and back surgeries and be able to have a long and fruitful life. I think that that's on the table. And I think if they'd have won, he'd have been out. I don't know if you guys played the sound, but when they asked him about it after the game, any truth to the rumor of you retiring,
Let me play it. Let me play
go ahead.
It. Here's Rob Gronkowski. This is the question and answer after the game.
Has retirement already crossed your mind? You've actually put thought into it?
We just lost. I mean, I just want to just sit back, relax the next couple of weeks, and I really got nothing to say about that right now.
Rob, there was a report before the game that you could potentially retire. Is there any accuracy to that?
I don't know how you heard that, but I mean, I'm definitely going to look at my future for sure. We'll sit down the next couple of weeks and see where I'm at.
All right, so he didn't want to talk about it, but he didn't exactly dispel that.
But what did he say first? I don't know how you heard about that.
Yeah.
We did the post-game show last night on NBCSN, and Chris Sims said, what's that? How'd you hear about it? There's nothing to hear about if there's nothing to it. I think if they'd won, he's gone. And now that they lost, he needs to figure out what he's going to do next. Because that's the perfect scenario. Walk away with a Lombardi trophy. He had a great performance this year. He made the extra $5.5 million in incentives. He came out of it fairly healthy. I do think the concussion is an issue, and you walk away. And now the question becomes, is he still going to walk away? But I think it's real. And if you're thinking about it and talking about it and you do that, I don't know how you heard about that. I think it's real.
Yeah, athletes will tell you when you start thinking or talking about retirement, you might as well retire. We're talking to Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk. Can you stay? I want to talk to you about what kind of drama in the offseason here. What are you finding out, with the drafts coming up?
Since it's our last time together, I may as well stay as long as you want me.
Yeah, well, once I get that ESPN parking spot back, I just got to figure out if I can bring the Danettes there to ESPN to work on the 6 o'clock Sports Center with me. Fritzy, I'll bring you back. You can book some guests. The other guys, you're on your own. Maybe go next door. Rich Eisen can add a couple of Eisenettes. That'd be nice. All right, 15. Just joking. Sorry about that. Just joking. All right. A little truth and every bit of kidding. What? What?
What is that you're talking about?
What? I'm thinking about retiring. Gronk and I are going to retire. All right, 16 after the hour. We'll come back with Mike Florio after this on the Dan Patrick Show. I was just talking to Mike Florio and the Danettes. We were doing our rundown meeting for the Super Bowl. We get done. I go outside. I get some food outside. And I see Chris Sims. Chris Sims goes, "Hey, man, I'm getting killed. I'm getting killed by people on the on Twitter, because I said Blake Bortles is the 70th best passer." I go, "But you did say that." And he goes,
over and over again.
Yes. Yeah, he goes, yeah, but I said it on your show. I said, yeah, you said it on my show. You also said, I think he should throw left-handed, not right-handed. Somehow I'm the blame because he came on and said something stupid.
He was not put on earth to throw the football. That he says that all the time about Blake Bortles. And like when he has a good game, he moves him from 70 to 67, 66, and then it's back to 70 again. And 70 is where he's locked in.
Mike Florio staying with us from Pro Football Talk. What is Blake Bortles' future in Jacksonville?
Well, there was a report last week that the Jaguars are going to keep him it's $19 million under the fifth-year option for 2018. And I feel like you have to just be willing to rip the name off the back of the jersey and say, what else could we do for the same money or less or a little bit more, right? If Case Keenum ends up being available, I'd take Case Keenum over Blake Bortles. I thought one strategy would be to cut him before the $19 million becomes fully guaranteed on March 14 and just sit back and see what happens. Because who else is going to rush to give Blake Bortles huge money? So maybe you can get him for less than that. And I think they've just kind of been dismayed because they've had success with him. So now what do? We have to keep him, but he's not the answer. And I feel like they're just one quarterback, very good quarterback, away from being the team that's hoisting the next Lombardi.
What about Nick Foles' future?
You know, the sense coming from the Eagles before they won the Super Bowl was they have to keep him because they need a great backup to Carson Wentz because of Carson Wentz's playing style. He's not going to change it. He's had the torn ACL. He's had other injuries. He plays with that physicality that is conducive to getting hurt. So you have to have Foles there. They got him under contract, I think, for $7 million for next year. That's a great deal.
Yeah.
But now what happens if somebody calls you up and says, hey, Super Bowl MVP, we'll offer you a first-round draft pick for Nick Foles. Do you take it and move on? They got the first-round pick and a fourth-round pick, I think, for Sam Bradford. And I think maybe they just hold on to Foles the same way they had Foles or Bradford and Wentz a couple of years ago and just wait and see. And maybe they can flip that into an asset, but they better feel good about whoever the backup is to Carson Wentz because you never know when that guy's going to have to play and play well.
Explain to me what's going on with Kirk Cousins right now.
Well,
wait a minute, hold on. Kirk Cousins.
Kirk, not Kurt. Look,
Cousins.
Kirk, here's the reality. Washington has a deal in place to get Alex Smith. And Washington, if they want to be cute, they can franchise tag Kirk Cousins again and then try to trade him. Too complicated, though. And it's $34.5 million to tag him again. Why wouldn't Cousins just accept it right away and say, hey, I'll take $34.5 million. If you want to play me, play me. If you don't. If you want to have me and Alex Smith, fine. I'm getting $34.5 million on top of the $44 million I've gotten the last 2 years. I think that, and one source characterized it to me yesterday as Washington playing a pettiness game.
But you could trade him to Cleveland, though, to spite him.
Yeah, but here's the thing. He has to sign the franchise tender, and then Cleveland has to take that contract. Well, they're going to take a one-year deal for $34 million, and then next year it would be another 44% raise on top of it, even if you can tag him a fourth time. Open question under the labor deal whether you even use the tag a fourth time. So what are you getting in return for Kirk Cousins? And I think of all players on the team, Dan, the quarterback has to be all in. You can't trade for Kirk Cousins if he doesn't want to be there. And when the Patriots did it with Matt Castle, he was on board with the process. He worked with the Patriots to let them trade him. If Cousins isn't going to cooperate, it becomes impossible. And I think Washington is just trying to make him sweat a little bit, maybe come up with some sort of a scheme to keep him from hitting the open market. But I don't think they'll be able to pull it off, and they're playing with fire. They tag him, he signs it, they're stuck for $34.5 million.
What are you hearing at the top of the draft?
It's all over the place at this point. I saw Mel Kiper had Josh Allen at number 1. There's been some buzz about the Browns falling in love with Baker Mayfield. What a shock that Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns, would fall in love with the next Johnny Manziel potential, at least from a playing standpoint, because he was all over Manziel 4 years ago. And they need that franchise quarterback. And people say this in jest, but when you have pick 1 and 4, and given your history with quarterbacks, why not take a quarterback with each pick? Right? It's a coin flip, and the Browns would be the only team that would come up tails both times. But they need that franchise quarterback.
God.
And you know, can they attract a Kirk Cousins? Probably not. He wants to win. So I think they have to hope that they can finally get a guy that they can groom to become a great quarterback, and hope that they can make him into that great quarterback, and that they don't pass on the next Carson Wentz or Deshaun Watson.
Panthers are up for sale. I don't know the likelihood of they would move out of Charlotte, but I was told something interesting yesterday, and I trust the source because he's with an owner. The price tag for the Panthers, $3 billion. It could get to $3 billion, I was told.
Look, we're all worth whatever someone will pay us. And if you have enough suitors at the table that are willing to bid it up, then yeah. Remember how shocked we were when Steve Ballmer paid $2 billion for the Clippers? It's like, this is the LAB team in the NBA, and it's worth $2 billion. But if there's somebody that's going to put that money together, they see the value, they see the long-term growth of the franchise. I could see it happen. If you have enough people who want it and they have enough money that they can justify doing it, it wouldn't surprise me.
But the likelihood that that team could be outside of Charlotte.
Well, we've seen nearly 10% of the league relocate or get permission to relocate in the last 2 years between the Chargers, the Rams, and the Raiders. And I think when it gets to the point of building or significantly renovating a new stadium, if you don't have the local will to provide the public money, if the owner's going to pay for it himself, okay, fine. I'll pay for the stadium in a bigger market where I'm going to be able to use the stadium more profitably on the other 355 days when we're not playing football. I mean, that's why Stan Kroenke said no to St. Louis. St. Louis was going to give him a large chunk of money for a new stadium, but I'll buy my own stadium in LA. I'll build it. I'll have 20 NFL games every year. I'll have events the rest of the year, and I'll make all my money back and then some. And I think just economics is going to become a bigger and bigger part of it, especially if the public money isn't there like it used to be.
What's the big off-season issue or topic that we should keep an eye on?
Catch rule.
Okay.
Right?
And I said this on Friday. I wasn't joking when I said this to Al Michaels, that maybe the Super Bowl ends and it's a controversial play. It almost did that way with Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
Why? To me, I don't care what happens once you land. Not in the end zone.
Right. They need to do two things.
Or out of bounds. I just don't care.
Treat the boundaries and the end zones differently. So if you are going to the ground, but you get the ball across, the Lance Moore play, the two-pointer from Super Bowl 44, they used to call it the second act rule, that if you got it across, it didn't matter if you lost possession when you hit the ground. And they need to do that. End zone's different. Field of play, different rule if you are going to the ground. But the main thing they need to do, there's 3 elements to the rule. 1, you get 2 hands on the ball. 2, you get 2 feet or another body part on the ground. 3, you have the ball long enough to clearly become a runner. 1 and 2, subject to replay review. It's objective. It's clear. If they got the 2 feet down or they didn't, for example. But element 3, subjective, right? So make it not subject to replay review. That last part that drives us crazy. Yeah. Did they have the ball long enough to clearly become a runner? If the official on the field thought so, we're not going to look at it. Just like pass interference. It's a judgment call. Why break it down frame by frame and try to come to that conclusion? I think if they would combine those 2 things, then I think they'd have it fixed.
Just the fact,
which means they'll never do it.
Yeah.
Now I think they're going to go back to square one. Here's the problem. You go back to square one and reconstruct the rule, you're going to have all sorts of crazy unintended consequences on the back end.
When the commissioner he's not quite sure what it is or how do you change it. You can't say we're going to look at, maybe making changes without telling me, what are you looking at in those changes? I mean, we love replay. I think that we've broken it down, though. It's frame by frame. And in that frame by frame, it does a disservice to the game because I can see movement almost in every catch. But, this...
The Corey Clement catch last night, Dan, on that drive where the Eagles really answered and when it felt like the Patriots were ready to take over. That frame by frame, balls moving around, did you have 2 feet down after you finally had control of the ball? That's the kind of play that during the regular season, Al Riveron, the senior VP of officiating, may have overturned it.
Yes.
But I think he's been more truthful and honest to the clear and obvious standard, and I think that's part of it too. You have to defer to the ruling on the field unless it's clearly and obviously wrong. We'll see what they do. The XFL already have an influence on the NFL because that was what Vince McMahon said. Hey, we're not going to try to criticize the NFL, but in the XFL, we will know what a catch is.
He's Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk. Thank you, Mike, for everything this year.
Good luck at ESPN.
Thank you. I probably won't be able to be on your show, just letting you know.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.